I have made this guide because so many people in this game tried to play Archer and they suck so bad. And your entire team hates them. I'm sure you've had that person on your team where you're like, I wish you would just quit. No longer, if you are one of these people, will you be one of these people, because I'm going to teach you how to be an awesome pro sniper archer man guy. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the bow, because the bow is the basic here and it's just more efficient and quickly will teach you how to engage ranges and stuff faster than any of the other ones, just because it fires fast. Okay, here goes. Here's the bow. No wait, that's pineapple. Hold on. Yay, bows. Alright, with the Archer you have a projectile camera that you can utilize by pushing the C button. You can use this camera to make predictable long range. What I'm doing here on this tower is I'm making certain points in reference in my mind of where my sights are being placed. The first I placed up there on that roof, second was on the lower roof. Based on the information that I got from those two, I adjusted my sights down to a slightly left position from the lower second roof, and I was able to make an accurate placement on that guy. This projectile camera can also be used non-offensively, where you can fire it over buildings and things to predict people's movements better by seeing where they're going to be. And you can use the arc of the arrow to hit people that you can't actually even see. And this is the main advantage of using a bow over a crossbow. And since you have these reference points in your mind, as long as you don't really move too much, you can have a predictable placement on different locations that you normally wouldn't have fired from, or have fired only once or twice before, and you can hit people that you haven't done. Then the next thing that you're going to have to do is make sure you predict people's paths. This is done by predicting the future. Well, sort of. What you want to do is think of everyone as an object in your mind, and that object is moving along a set path. And they move that path, and you want to imagine yourself following them as you go along with them. You want to anticipate their moves. And there's several ways you can do this. The first way would be by making yourself following along with them as they're going with your cursor, shooting them. And then the second method is to try and follow them, guess where they're going to be, move your marker to that point, and that this is why it's especially important to keep moving as an archer, because this makes you a target, and if you don't move, you remove one of the aspects of being for archers and makes it incredibly easy to hit you. A good place to practice this is on this mission here, the team-based one where you're on the Masons and you're trying to kill these villagers. It's very easy to hit these guys because they follow a really fluid pattern when they're running. Sometimes they don't even run at all, they just stand there. So it's really good archer practice to play this level. I'm not sure if you can play it alone by yourself, but it might be something you can consider. Even if you do it on the blue team, they're still invincible and you're free to hit them. I just like being on the Mason team because it's a lot more fun watching them, and you're actually helping your team rather than just griefing them. If you get really good at this, you can quickly decimate the number of these peasants just without any effort at all. And you can obviously see I'm just standing here. Even if you're not going to kill someone, you should try and damage them anyway if they're trying to do something to hurt your team. Because just that little bit of damage might be enough to kill them, or just might be enough to bother them enough so that they won't continue doing whatever they're doing to pester your team. And that can make the difference between your team failing an objective or taking it. Try to make your in between people, because that way they're going to be moving less and you have a better chance to make a stationary target rather than a moving target. The opposite is usually true with archers. When they're trying to make they're going to be stable, and that's when you want to hit them. When drawing your bow, make sure you do it from behind cover, because you can't until it's actually pulled up, and that gives you an extra little second or two of protection. Sometimes bows just miss. Don't be discouraged by long, because your bow can surprisingly far. Just pick your points and use them as reference. Use a branch, use 2/3 down a red stripe in your mind. It's whatever you need to make a reference point, so that you'll remember where you try to avoid over a fire pit, because they have a huge model and their arrows will not penetrate through it. I'll show you here. As you can see, if you look in the fire, all my arrows are actually in the fire model. On a side note, when you have the opportunity at a group of people, make sure that you can maximize your ability to do damage. Like here, I could have when the archer was alone, but when the paths cross of the two different characters, so that I increased the chance to hit multiple targets. Where I did miss the archer, but since the other target was behind him, I hit the knight, and it resulted in a successful hit, which would have otherwise have been a miss. Occasionally let loose an arrow can help you monitor the activity, so that way you're not overrun. You have to watch for them to fade back and forth in between each other, and try at the part when they either come in or they come out of their dance. Crossbowsmen are really easy to pick off. You just have to make sure you hit them between their crouching or their standing up stance. You don't want to try while they're coming up, because that's when they're moving the most. When somebody is rushing in on you, you have an incredibly tiny window when they're swinging their weapon and use their shield to hit them. You want to be fast, but you want to be accurate. Accuracy is more important than being fast, because if you miss, that means the person who's shooting at you now has 3 times the amount of time his one shot and make a good, because he has the time that it took him and you to aim at each other. He has the time it's going to take you to reload, and it's going to have the time that it takes you to aim your new. So that's 3 times as much time, if not more, for him to make that one. If you don't need your target, this is what's going to happen. You're going to hit behind him somewhere, and you're never going to hit the target. You're just going to be like all the robot alien people or whatever in your favorite movie that just trying to hero, and they just everything in the entire universe, llamas, asteroids, the entire spaceship, everything except the hero, because they don't lead properly. And now time for something completely different.
Can't go what? Can't do what? Can't what? Going right through it. I can't hear you. I can't hear what you said about the fence. There is no over the sound of the fence breaking.
In this clip, I'm showing you the same thing here, but extremely exaggerated. I'm aiming as high as I can so that my crosshair is as far as I can, and I'm using that as a consistent point instead of, using a tree or a cloud or something, since it's so far away. I'm using just that exact highest point, and I'm actually moving my feet instead of moving the crosshairs. And then as I can gauge this over a couple of tier, I can position it correctly in the spot that's going to land right at the balloon. This takes a lot of effort here to get it right, and you have to use a lot of precision to make it accurate. And then just the time for the arrow to travel there is kind of unrealistic to do this, simply because people aren't going to be there when and it takes like 8-9 seconds to get there. What you could do is you could memorize points where almost exactly where you know where to aim at a specific point with your feet, so that it hits exactly at this point, so that you would have a memorized point to stand on rather than trying to do this every single time, because you can see it takes like 9-10 arrows or something just to make this land. And there you go. Even the king with his high-end health is very susceptible to being by archers. It might take like 4 or 5 hits, but he is very... Another option that people can use here is the short bow, but personally I really dislike the short bow. I'd rather use the bow or the default bow, because this short bow is not very powerful at all. I think the only thing it really has going for it is maybe other archers, but majority of players don't play archer. So you really don't have anything going for this. You can't kick with it. If you could kick with it, maybe it would help, or it's maybe run faster, but usually this is what happens. You land 2-3 hits that are successful, and somebody else lands 1 hit on you, and you're going to get... So I really advise using a different bow other than this one. The other thing is if you don't get people, you'll just people, and most likely somebody else will take your, even 2 heads to the face. You have to take multiple hits to those. So 3 bodies, I think, or multiple 4 or 5s if you hit them in the leg or the arm. So you really should not use this. And that's if you're using the correct arrow type. Using the wrong arrow type, it's even worse. I just honestly just kind of feel dumb standing around here looking at people, because they just beat the crap out of me and there's really nothing I can do. I mean, you can only be so accurate. It's hard enough to place 2, let alone 5. The sad thing is that honestly this is the best footage I could get. I mean, I played with this for a while and this is really the best I could do. I mean, it's a little bit better, you know, when I'm not using fraps, but honestly it's bad. Alright, time! Alright, many people think that Archer is defenseless, but the truth is that you're actually very formidable. But what you're going to have to do is you have to be a lot better than the people that you're, because you're going to have to score about 4 to 6 hits, maybe more, to actually someone, unless you score heads. But you are not going to be incredibly undefendable. You have your fists, your feet, and you can use those to full effect as an archer. You have a faster swing than most of the other classes do, so you're going to be able to outmaneuver them. Even man-at-arms, you're about even with them, unless they're really good at dodging, but you can still attack at the same speed and more or less the same distances that they do. Personally, I like to use either the saber or the unlock after it, which is that club. The club's a little bit faster, but the saber has longer reach. I honestly don't really like the close-ups because it's really difficult to block with them. But they are pretty good because you can get in someone's defense really well. But I really honestly don't like how difficult they are to block with, especially if people have really poor connections. It feels like it's next to impossible to block with them. So that's why, you know, I prefer these longer swords. And then as far as that is concerned with the archer, I typically like to play it more defensively, where I retreat and let other people come at me rather than going and striking into them, just because I really can't sacrifice getting hit, so I want to be able to keep up my defense ability at all times. Unless you know, I'm really exactly certain I'm going to land a hit, I usually will not make an offensive move, just because, you know, it's simply so screwed. When you're playing as an archer, you want to make sure you move around people's shields, that you use your momentum and your ability to just move in general to outmaneuver them around their shields. A lot of people are used to archers not being very good, so they usually go on the aggressive, which you can use to your advantage when facing these slower moving foes. Make sure to use your feet as much as possible when you're an archer, because they will help you out and keep you out of situations where you can normally get hit. Just make sure that you're going to make it successful when you use your feet, because otherwise you're going to sacrifice that one hit and you're going to get. But if you can use that to move somebody out of battle to where you don't have to engage them, you most likely can have a great advantage to them, because they most likely won't have axes or anything to really throw at you other than maybe once or twice, and you'll be able to fully hit them with your entire set of arrows at a distance, forcing them to come back to distance to engage you. A lot of the time, if they don't do that, they will just break away and leave. Make sure you utilize torches as an archer, because they're going to damage your opponent and make it just a few hits less that you're going to have to do with your weapon. And make sure you're using combos effectively, because the difference in using combos and not means you have to half as many times to be successful. And now, regrettably, spears. Alright, the spear. Basically, the spear makes you a knight with range capability. You move in a slow attack, and even if you hit someone with the spear, chances are they're not going to. The spear doesn't go through shields, and even when you do hit people, which is really hard to do because of the game's, just weirdness on hitting things, and I feel kind of like the spear's target reticle, I guess, is even smaller than the actual arrows, so it's even harder to use. Look at this guy here. He's got 2 spears in his body and he's still kicking. You only have 4 spears, and after that you have a mediocre melee archer. So really, I don't like this at all. There's not even an option to turn off your shield, so you can't have half of your screen most of the time as visibility to even throw this thing. It doesn't pierce multiple people. Honestly, I think this is the choice for an archer is really just mediocre, when you could just go with the bow and end up using yours just like anything else, but you'd have the addition of the bow. Where here you're just going to more mediocre that might not come even if you hit them, and it's going to leave you open if the enemy's too close for you to even retaliate. And lastly, if you're wondering why I haven't reviewed the crossbows, they are really horrible and there's no reason for anyone to ever use them. Their limited ability to use them is perhaps maybe to only corridors where the archer might have a little hard time arcing it successfully to make longer, but really that does not happen too often, and you're better off with having a bow, because by the time you could fire one with the crossbow and have it reloaded, I can probably 3 or 4 times with my bow. And I have to just land one successful hit or 2 body. Or even if I'm using a broadhead against another archer or crossbowman, I just have to land 1 hit on the body. So always, pretty much every scenario, the bow is going to be much better than the crossbow. So I would not use it. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I'll try and do more videos every once in a while of Chivalry. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you enjoyed the archery guide, and I hope to help you out.